Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. I hope you're well. Big mahalo for tuning in. Today we're lucky to get a very special musician on the program. He's playing 3 island dates. Thursday at the Mac on Maui, Big Friday show at the Kauai Beach Resort, Saturday at the Kona Brewing Company, on sale now. Look for his Plays More Blues, Ballads and Favorites, featuring Luann Barton, follow-up to Plays Blues, Ballads and Favorites. Austin, Texas guitarist and singer known for drawing inspiration from the Three Kings, Freddie, Albert, and BB, among many others. He's had his talents cross paths with folks like Jimi Hendrix, who he had a remarkable encounter with. Through his years with the Fabulous Thunderbirds, to his appearance in the Blues Brothers 2000, since '94, solo touring and recording the New Vernon fans around the world. His family name is legendary, as he and his late younger brother are permanently etched into the history books of music, and it's a great pleasure to welcome him to member-supported Hawaii Public Radio. Jimmie Vaughan, you are a legendary guy, and it's a pleasure to get to talk to you. And
thank you for the introduction. That was amazing.
Thank you very much for taking just a few minutes for me. I hope you do know that your time is valued. And
it's my pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. And what's your background with Hawaii, Jimmy? For folks who are curious, you're back in the islands, as I mentioned, 3 shows. What's your background in terms of previous visits to the islands?
Well, I've been here probably 3 or 4 times, playing shows with a few times with the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and a few times with my own band over the years.
Anything that sticks out?
And also, I came here in the late '80s or the mid '80s sometime, and took some steel guitar lessons from Jerry Bird, a fabulous steel guitarist over in Honolulu. So I was here about 3 months with him.
Wow, what a special thing. What inspired you to want to come out and study?
Well, I just really loved his records, and I love all the hula records and steel guitar records from the 40s and 50s mainly, and early 60s, and I love all that stuff. And I've always been interested in it, and just interested in how the steel guitar works and the music of the islands here.
Was that?
So I came right to the source.
Yes, you did. And did it have a lasting impact on, what year was that? And since then, has it had an impact on your playing or perception of how the island music fits into your influence?
Well, yes, it has, very much so. I always think that the music comes out of the ground, like the blues is very similar to a lot of the Hawaiian kind of steel stuff, and the Hawaiian steel stuff had a big influence on the blues and the country and the music in the States, especially when it was popular back then. And so I've always been interested in how the music crosses over and everything. It's really all very similar,
Yeah, it is.
It's closer together than it is different.
Far apart, yeah. That's kind of when you take a step back and you really look at different idioms of music, you realize something like Nirvana and the Grateful Dead aren't that far apart when you start thinking about Fela and Nigerian music and any kind of, different international influences. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's all very interesting to me. And
you mentioned hula. Did you note the connection between the dancing and the music? There is an interesting relationship.
Yes, very much. I just love all that. Like I say, I'm a big fan, and I have several records from the late 40s, early 50s, all the way up to the early 60s of hula records, or what they called hula records. I don't know. Just the whole Hawaiian steel guitar from Salhulu PE and all the stuff in between.
You have some other connections to the islands too, Jimmy, that are via people that you have worked with at different points, recorded with, who actually reside out here. I'm not sure if you realize folks like Willie Nelson, for example, who you did the Milk Cow Blues. He's out here on Maui.
Well, I heard that, but I've never, I just imagine that he lives on top of a mountain somewhere with with horses running around. I don't know. I'm certainly a big Willie fan, though.
He probably does. Santana's out here too. Havana Moon, you worked on.
Yes. So I didn't realize that Carlos was out here. That's great.
You got a whole bunch of people. You never know who might show up at that concert, so be prepared for a little jam.
All right. Well, fantastic.
And on that note, give a little plug for folks who are probably appreciative that you've scheduled these shows back in the islands. Who's going to be playing alongside you, Brother Jimmy?
Well, I've got my band right now that, if you've heard my last two records, Blues Ballads and Favorites, and then part 2 is called More Blues Ballads and Favorites. And these are all songs that I loved when I was coming up, and they were on the radio and they're popular, and just favorite songs of mine, and I wanted to do them. And it's scary to do songs that you like when you're a kid sometimes, because you hold them high, and it's hard to beat the original. And but anyway, we started recording some of them and started having a good time, and decided that we would do it anyway, and then it turned into a lot of fun, and we couldn't stop. So that's really what happened. And so anyway, I've got the band that I used on
those records.
Yes, and I've got Lou Ann with me. She's on the records.
Nice.
And I've got horn section, Doug James and Mike Renta on the trombone. I've got string bass, George Raines on the drums, Billy Horton on the bass, and rhythm guitar. So there's about 7 of us.
It sounds fabulous.
So we're having a good time, and I love my band.
And, when you're mentioning those records, plays More Blues Ballads and Favorites featuring Luann Barton, and also plays Blues Ballads and Favorites, the first of that pair. It's got to be, as you were discussing, these songs that had an impact early in your life. I got to imagine radio was critical to introducing them to you, KNOX and also XERB when you were young.
Yes. Yeah. Like I would listen to, there was a station,
KNOX.
KNOX, and there was also WRR in Dallas, and then there was, I would listen to the Wolfman, which was on XERS in Mexico.
Wow.
That would come on after midnight. This was all happening in my bed when I was supposed to be asleep with my little transistor radio. And I would listen to Nashville, Halstan, or Randy's Record Mart, which came on, after the Dallas stuff. So anyway, it was just wonderful, and heard a lot of these songs on that transistor radio,
And now you're playing them.
So now I'm playing them, and I also play some of the stuff from Family Style and some of my earlier records, and even a couple of T-Birds things. So a little bit of mix of everything.
That's the thing about you. Your life has been sort of a mix of everything, too, because while blues has been a base of it, guitar has taken you, as you already noted. You've had a lot of other kinds of flavor of guitar, whether it was steel guitar, different folks that you've gotten the chance to work with. We were just mentioning a couple, Willie, Carlos. At 13, you started on guitar. I've always been curious about you, Jimmy. How long did it take you before you knew that you would devote yourself to the instrument rather than it being just a passing interest? You know what I mean? When it gelled.
Well, what happened to me was I was playing football. I tried to go. This guy told me, he said, "Look, if you want to get a girlfriend, you're going to have to play football." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So he said, "You need to go out for football." So I went out for football, and when it was my turn to audition or whatever they call it, I actually caught the ball and got tackled by a bunch of guys piled on me, and I broke my collarbone. And so they sent me home for like 3 months because of the injury. And while I was at home, my dad gave me a guitar to keep me out of trouble. And I started playing. I learned how to play in about a week. Not very good, but, I learned how to play like Jimmy Reed and Honky Tonk and some stuff like that. And I knew right away I want to be a guitar player.
That's such
an amazing thing. It started out on football, so... but I was a terrible football player. I could play guitar better than play football, I'll tell you.
What a great story of how you started to play the guitar.
So, I started playing and kept playing ever since. That was when I was 12. And then I put it down, and then my little brother, who was I'm 4 years older than him. Stevie would pick it up when I would put it down, and he watched me learn how to play, and I brought home the records and everything. So that's how he got started too, because little brothers want to do what big brothers do sometimes. So
for the good and bad.
Yes. So I ran away from home when I was about 14, and I left him the guitar.
Critical moment, huh?
Yeah.
Good thing to have left behind. Do you remember when he first connected with the guitar? Can you ever remember thinking to yourself, man, he might have something there?
Yeah, well, what happened was I moved to Austin when I was 18, and then a couple of years later, he moved down there and started playing around town with different people, and that's when he started becoming Stevie Ray Vaughan, And then he turned out amazing, and we all know about Stevie Ray Vaughan and what he did with the guitar and how much fun he had. So the guitar has been great to both of us.
When you think about that, the guitar being great to both of you, there's a part of your life which I'm sure you've reflected on it countless times because people are curious about it, but I bet it also holds some resonance in your life too because of your passion for the instrument, and that was you were in, I guess, the Chessmen when you had the remarkable experience of warming up for Jimi Hendrix. Perhaps you'd share it with our audience. Well,
we played on the show at SMU in Dallas, which stands for Southern Methodist University, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they've got a part in Dallas, and so we played on a show opening for Hendrix because the band I got in they were all older than me. I was like 15, they were 20.
Wow.
And they had a couple of 45s out in Dallas. And back then everything was local. You had local groups with records on the radio, along with the big records. So that's how we got on the gig, because we were popular around town. And then we got on the gig with opening for Hendrix, which was, was like, it was like Hendrix was like
second coming,
space traveler or something. You know what I mean? He was like from Mars or something. But
yeah.
It was like blues went to Mars and came back or something. I don't know. But anyway, everybody was fascinated with Hendrix, as you can imagine, and we got to open for him, and then. So then he broke his wah-wah pedal, and it was Saturday night. So they came to me and said, well, look, give me your wah-wah pedal, and we'll give you $50, and we'll give you the broken one. You can get it fixed next week. So that's how I got the Hendrix wah-wah pedal.
Did you keep it?
Of course, I got it now. And he, I don't know where mine is, but he took it. It was a Vox. They cost like $29 or something back then. 27 or something like that.
You get any personal time hanging with him?
Just a little bit. How you doing? Nice to meet you. Big fan, and just the whole fascination of meeting Hendrix, who was quite young himself at that time.
Unbelievable. And another part of your life that is equally as fascinating for people, and that's what's great about you've eclipsed your Thunderbird years by doing all the stuff you've been doing solo for so long and just establishing yourself as such a critical part of the guitar legacy in greater consciousness. But when I think about the T-Birds, are there any highlights, favorite times, stories from that era that when you think back to it, you just think, man, that was a good time, or that sums up what that was all about?
Oh man, there's so many. One of the highlights was we played on a show with the Rolling Stones and ZZ Top in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl.
Huge.
And we played the Astrodome with for the same show, and then we played at the Astrodome with the Who. I mean, we're talking thousands of people.
Yeah. Which
is always a thrill, and it's very hard to describe. But, just the whole guitar experience with me has been fabulous. And I'm sure if I hadn't started playing my instrument, I would be, a lot of my friends are in jail or they're dead or, people that I grew up with.
It saved you.
Home. And so I've been very, very fortunate guitar has been really good to me, and it's taken me around the world, and I get to come to Hawaii and play guitar.
And I leave you with this one. Over the last year, I lost my mom and my grandmom, and sometimes I feel them with me.
Yes.
And I just wonder, because your brother was so special. I saw him live a few times. He was something else. I just wonder, do you feel him with you? Do you have little interactions with him that anything you could share?
Well, I know that you never get over that kind of stuff, but you get better with it with time. And, people miss Stevie Ray Vaughan, the great musician, but I miss my brother, my little brother, and big brothers are supposed to protect their little brothers. And so there's all those kind of feelings. And, all I can say is that, we love him and, we miss him. And, the whole thing has been overwhelming, if you know what I mean.
I can only imagine, dude. That's your bro. You had a great rapport. You made music that people can, not a whole lot with him.
I started playing first, so I always remind myself, you got to keep playing, you got to keep playing. Because, there's a lot of people that don't even know, that I'm still playing or who I am.
Right.
And because Stevie fans, and it goes back and forth, and then, and then there's people that argue about, well, Stevie's better, and people that argue, no, Jimmy's better, and no, they're different, and blah, blah, blah. And so it's kind of amusing and strange to me. But we're all better for Stevie being here, and we love him forever.
Amen. He's your brother, and that's cool. I'm glad.
I've actually played here in Hawaii a couple of times with him.
With him?
Yes.
Anything that sticks out in your mind of being in the...
Well, I remember one time we played somewhere in Honolulu in a Coliseum, and they had the car show going next door.
Okay.
So we all went to the car show. That was a lot of fun. And I'm big into cars, hot rods and everything, and so I've got a lot of hot rod friends around the country, and so put a little shout out to the hot rodders on the islands. I know there's a lot of them.
Well, they're going to be showing up, plus a lot of people who just appreciate good music, and the show is Thursday, the Mac Castle Theater on Maui, big Friday night show, Kauai Beach Resort, Saturday, the Kona Brewing Company. We're disappointed that you're not hitting Honolulu this year, but I just urge you, do keep in mind, I hope you had a good time today, and if you are ever going to be in Honolulu, you look me up, I'll take good care of you, have you down to the studio, and I'd appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you for everything.
You have a good time today? Was this okay?
This was great. This was great.
Do you mind cutting a quick ID for me before I let you go?
I'd love to. Aloha is Jimmie Vaughan, and you're tuned to All Things Considered with my friend Dave Lawrence on statewide, member-supported Hawaii Public Radio.